President Paul Biya has addressed major health concerns amidst the ravaging coronavirus pandemic, and strict respect for barrier measures is still insisted upon. We will be having reactions from the population as per the head of state's appearance. What has been the ambience in the nation's capital, especially at the very celebrated 20 May Boulevard? Much more tonight. And Muslim faithfuls are wrapping up preparations for the Ramadan feast, as well as Christians for the Ascension Day. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us on the English Newscast on Spectrum Television with me, Josephine Bindzi. The head of state has called for strict respect of barrier measures against the coronavirus. Paul Biya was speaking yesterday on a rare appearance of the eve of National Day. Peter Nsose has details.
Acknowledging that Cameroon, like most countries across the globe, is affected by the coronavirus, the head of state said Cameroon's health system is mobilized to face the pandemic, a situation which justified the cancellation of public festivities of the National Day.
Under these circumstances, it was not possible to maintain the festivities marking the celebration of our National Day due to the gatherings it entails. Of course, it was with some reluctance that I took this decision. However, since my main concern is to preserve the health of my fellow compatriots, there was no room for hesitation.
President Paul Biya thanked some opposition political actors for keeping aside political affiliations and joining the fight in keeping COVID-19 at bay, urging the population not to panic and shun fake news. The country's leader was firm that Cameroon is up to the task, but it will require a huge dose of discipline from all and sundry.
I strongly urge all political, religious and opinion leaders, all official associations, all traditional rulers and all dignitaries to fully participate in the fight against COVID-19. Of course, this should be done within the framework defined by the government and in compliance with the laws and regulations of the Republic.
In the face of economic shocks, the president has implored government to take appropriate measures in order to mitigate the effects of the pandemic on the economy.
In an unprecedented social context, it should in particular be resourceful and inventive to maintain our financial balances, contain the rate of inflation, ensure the continuity of public service, especially in the education sector, and regulate economic activity so as to safeguard social stability and peace.
Vowing to spare no efforts in checking the spread of the virus, the head of state has told Cameroonians that other health programs will be strengthened. The 19 measures taken last month, he stresses, was to ease the pains suffered by economic operators and facilitate social life for all. The wearing of face masks, he insisted, remains in force till further notice.
President Biya, in his yesterday's address to the nation, solicits the support of political, economic and social activists in collaboration with government to effectively kick out the COVID-19 pandemic out of the country. This woe upon them who try to defer this initiative. Let's listen to this excerpt.
Most of you have understood that it is necessary to put aside political squabbles and adopt a common front in the face of the insidious danger posed by COVID-19. Some political leaders who do not belong to the ruling majority shared this view. I thank them for that. As you are aware, Following the outbreak of the pandemic in our country, a special national solidarity fund to fight the coronavirus has been set up. In addition to the protective measures I have already mentioned, I take this opportunity to congratulate our fellow citizens who have already made contributions. I call on those who can to do same. National solidarity so requires. In our current struggle, the government will go to great lengths to combat any manipulation or exploitation of this tragedy for political, economic, or social ends.
From took interest in city dwellers' points of view as per the head of state yesterday's address. Violet Senkum has been on that search and puts together the following report.
Following the unusual but highly awaited address by the President Paul Biya to the nation on the eve of the celebration of the country's National Unity Day, some citizens poured out their reactions, saying their expectations weren't met. Firstly, the President made an error of not putting on his face mask to show a good example, to address his government while they didn't accept COVID-19 kits from some political parties who wanted to help in the fight against COVID-19. Actually, he just did a repetition of what his government has already said. He didn't say anything new. The most important thing is we've seen him on TV, but nothing new in what he said. He had to be constantly addressing the nation like other nations do. People could be assured, but ever since he's not saying anything, even if other government officials have been talking to the public, but they are not the president. The citizens elected him, so he should be talking and encouraging his citizens. Meanwhile, many have expressed satisfaction of yesterday's speech that President Paul Biya has at last addressed the nation and silenced critics. People were saying the president isn't with us anymore, but he was everywhere on Facebook saying the president is no more. But now we have seen him and we are assured because of his encouragement. We wanted to see him a long time ago to no avail, but now we have, and we know he is in control of the situation. Since he focused on the pandemic, I felt good about it, and to my greatest surprise with the rumors everywhere that the president is no more. But yesterday I watched the speech amazingly, close to 20 minutes, so the truth is out. Cameroonians are finally at peace, especially as Paul Biya has reassured the nation that once the treatment of the dreaded pandemic is discovered, it will be available for the public.
Over to the littoral region, the city of Douala today, May 20, was quiet as a graveyard as compared to other years with usual flamboyant fanfares. John Paul Sama measured the temperature of the city this morning and now reports.
This should have been what would have kept most people occupied today, watching the beautiful movements and displays at the Beseke ceremonial ground. But that wasn't the case this 20th of May 2020, as the Beseke ceremonial ground is as quiet as a graveyard. No activities ongoing, only a few cars plying that stretch of road unhinged unlike before. Dust has also taken up permanent residency here, proof of a day of a non-event. Even some streets in town which used to be busy at this time, like Aqua, are completely empty with very little activities ongoing and very few bike riders on the street. The only place which seems busy are markets and not even popular spots where most people come to immortalize the day. In effect, the celebration of the National Unity Day 2020 is respecting barrier measures imposed by the COVID-19.
Upon high instructions from the head of state, all national gendarmerie brigades across the country have today, May 20, performed special flag hoisting ceremonies. According to the Chief Warrant Gendarmerie Brigade, Fabrice Mbala Tangana, this special activity has been executed due to the suspension of this year's National Day. Emmanuel Kenjisi with more.
In neat uniforms and well-polished boots, these elements of the Ngusu Gendarmerie Brigade rally in front of their office this morning for this special flag hoisting ceremony. But before the 5-minute solemn exercise begins, the officers must respect the 1-meter safety distance as prescribed to bar COVID-19, reason why the facial mask is obligatory. Given that the flag is a symbol of nationhood, the nearby traffic is temporarily blocked for allegiance to a state symbol is duty of everyone.
Le 20 mai, la fête d'indépendance serait passée inaperçue. C'est la raison pour laquelle le chef de l'État.
Given that public celebrations of the 20th May this year is cancelled, the President of Cameroon has instructed that all the national gendarmerie across the country perform a solemn flag hoisting ceremony simultaneously at 10 a.m. This is then followed by the national anthem.
Suivi de l'hymne national ou du refrain de l'hymne national en bonne et due forme.
In the absence of a public celebration, the head of state, in his unprecedented address last night, urged all and sundry to uphold the virtues of patriotism and morality.
Going down memory lane, Catherine Kone maps the events that brought to an end the abolition of the 1962 federal system of government to the 1972 unitary state. How did both Cameroons become one? Details in the following report.
In 1884, Cameroon became a German colony known as Cameroon. After Germany's defeat in the First World War, the administration of the colony was divided between Britain and France, becoming a UN trust territory after the end of the Second World War and the creation of the United Nations. The UN trust territory, known as French Cameroon, achieved independence from France on January 1st, 1960, and British Southern Cameroon became a federated state within Cameroon on October 1st, 1961. On May 20th, 1972, in a national referendum, Cameroonians massively voted for a unitary state as opposed to the existing federal state. After the referendum, the then President Amadou Ahidjo abolished the federal system of government in favor of the United Republic of Cameroon. The flag was then changed from 3 bands of green, red, yellow with 3 golden colored stars on the green to 3 vertical bands with green, red, yellow and a yellow star on the red. Even though the National Day is considered a public holiday in Cameroon, the day is enriched with colorful and high-profile events. Socio-cultural activities, unity work among others are being carried out. On the D-Day, a cross-section of Cameroonians turn out at the grandstand to express their joy and attachment to their fatherland by singing, taking part in march pasts in the different parts of the country. The major climax of the event is the uniform dressing, march past by the Cameroonian military that shows of living together, a unity and national cohesion.
Talking about national unity, the Douala Reunification Stadium is one of the edifices which serves as a symbol of Cameroon's unity and diversity. John Paul Sama looks at this historic sporting infrastructure that has been given a facelift.
The Bepanda Omnisport Stadium stands tall in the heart of the economic capital as a symbol of Cameroon's unification. This edifice depicts the relationship between soccer and nationalism. Opened in 1972, the 35,000 capacity stadium has provided fond memories for some.
De 1961, 60-62,
I used to play on this ground, and in 1962, when I passed the entrance into Lycée Technique de Douala, my friend ran here to give me the news. We've lived in this area for a very, very long time now. The stadium also is playing host to some mythic clubs in the country and hosted the 1972 African Cup of Nations.
We have clubs like Arsenal of Douala, Union of Douala, New Star of Douala, and second division team like Matelo. All the teams we are training outside the start and nest.
48 years down the line, the reunification stadium has been given a facelift.
The stadium was very bad. There was no electricity, there was no toilet, everything was. When I want to go and play, we should go outside the stadium to go and ease ourselves, which was not a possible thing for a whole country like this, and a start like Omispo in Douala. Pension is now, the start is already a start that you can enter there and strip and do anything that the sporter can do as a footballer.
This structure stands alongside others as Cameroon's identity of oneness.
Observing national unity and Cameroon's bilingual nature, let's take you to a family who is purely Francophone but send their children to purely Anglo-Saxon education. The marriage between the two Cameroons on the 20th of May 1972 has metamorphosed into a deeper affiliation between Francophones and Anglophones. This fusion has birthed different hybrids in marriage, social points of view, as well as the educational sector. Mr. Tassa Paul, who hails from the West region together with his wife, decided years ago to educate their daughter in a purely Anglo-Saxon system.
What motivated me to send my daughter to an Anglo-Saxon system of education is because my wife grew up in the Anglophone section, the Anglophone sector in Kumba precisely. So it was easy for my wife to speak in English and myself in French.
En anglais, peut-être moi en français.
The young Sandra is proud to be called a perfect representation of her country.
As good in the English section, because being English section and living with people that are Francophone is something extraordinary, because you can understand both English and French and represent a Cameroonian. Because being a Cameroonian is to understand both English and French and to know to speak currently both English and French.
Though the decision was challenging to these parents, he admires the fruit of his persistence on his young Sandra.
Il y avait une très grande difficulté, surtout pour elle.
It was very challenging, especially for her, because in school everyone spoke in English and at home it was the complete opposite. It was difficult for her to come back home and not continue in English. The only encouragement was that her mom spoke English. This is what has enabled her to endure so far. She's continued her education in the Anglophone section till date.
Et puis continue jusqu'aujourd'hui.
Once upon a time, the destiny of Cameroon was defined almost 11 years after the Fumban Conference, which many Francophones and Anglophones recognized the bond they share in 1972. The fruits of that union are served on the tables of many Cameroonian marriages and other sectors and are proud to represent its national colors. And over to the Ascension Day, parish priests at the cathedral in the city of Douala are preparing for their live masses to be broadcast barely few hours to the Ascension Day celebration. In this report, social distancing is measured as imposed by the government. Oni Ladonet has more.
According to Luke chapter 24 in the Holy Bible, Jesus Christ was taken up to heaven 40 days after his resurrection, a day celebrated as the Ascension or Holy Thursday. This celebration entails some spiritual preparations.
D'abord, il y a la préparation spirituelle. Et cette préparation spirituelle Nous la faisons chaque année.
Firstly, we have the spiritual preparations, and for the spiritual preparations, we do it every year. But it should be noted that this spiritual preparation is being done individually due to the COVID-19 this year. Because of the pandemic, we can no longer come together to do a communal preparation.
De la COVID-19, nous n'arrivons plus à nous réunir en groupe, en masse, pour faire une préparation communautaire.
However, the existence of the COVID-19 has hindered the large assembly of brethren so as to respect the 1 meter social distance.
Mais depuis cette pandémie, par exemple ici à la cathédrale de Douala,
since the pandemic, here at the cathedral, Christians are in communion with their pastors. So that's how we are preparing.
À travers les ondes. Donc il y a cette préparation qui se fait dans ce sens.
Large preparations are being carried out on the different masses to be aired come Holy Thursday.
Pendant de la célébration proprement dite, nous avons continué à mettre en pratique les directives de notre Père.
We will continue practicing all the instructions from our father, the Archbishop Samuel Cleather.
As Muslim holy month of Ramadan slowly tilts to an end, a series of spiritual activities preoccupy them. This time we talk zakat, which is a Muslim act of giving to the needy. More details with Ajara Ali.
As Muslims faithfuls worldwide count few days to round up the 30 days of fasting period, considered one of the strongest pillars of Islam, they are now gearing towards the zakat, which is a religious duty for all Muslims who meet up the tax of criteria of wealth to give it out to all as alms, based on the value of one's possession, as Islamic scholars explain.
Benediction in the Ramadan months. In the same way, we have to give what we are calling the Zakat al-Fitr. This is an institution recommended by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, who say that in the end of Ramadan we have to give assistance, which should be food, to poor people, to make them pass the very good period of the celebrations of the end of Ramadan. And the same way, we have in that time exactly take off from the stations of the simple believer to be in the spirit believer, even that we have to climb from down to the summit of spiritual life, because from the 21, 23 or 25 and 27 and 29 nights of those days or these days, we have to have a result of our practice. So we are spending this time to find this result, calling Laylatul Qadr. It means that destination, it means the time that we are finding to get something, to have a payment of.
Today, in most countries that practice Islam like Cameroon, the act of almsgiving is voluntary. While in the Islamic world like Libya, Saudi Arabia and Sudan, it is considered mandatory on every Muslim, collected as tax that must be paid. The 2020 Zakat Gift Program say this year's gift, channeled under the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, is targeting Muslims who are in dire need of assistance as a result of the world humanitarian crisis, COVID-19.
And let's flip over to biodiversity. Today, the world celebrates World Bee Day, today, May 20, moving to the third edition under the theme, Be Engaged. Ajara Ali gives a rundown of this celebration.
The goal to strengthen measures aimed at protecting bees and other pollinators which significantly contribute to solving problems related to global food supply and eliminate hunger in less developed countries is the brain behind celebrating the 2020 World Bee Day. This year's theme centers on Bee Engage, relating to the COVID-19 pandemic that has desirable impact on beekeeping sector. Here it is thereby reducing the production of honey, putting a negative impact on bees production and delivery. Observed every 20th of May is to raise awareness on the importance of the role this product that has nutritive value play. The first World Bee Day was being observed in 2018 after being approved in December 2017. A proposal set in place by the Fourth Republic of Slovenia with the support of Apomedia, the International Federation of Beekeepers.
And let's now talk sports. 2 times African Footballer of the Year, Roger Milla, turns 68 today with a long football career vested in honors. John Paul Sama looks at the career of this iconic figure and has this report.
Cameroon and the world celebrates this May 20th one of, if not the best footballers to have ever put on the green, red, yellow jersey. Albert Roger Milla came from Eclair de Douala to the biggest stage in world football, marveling and taking the world by surprise with his wonderful talent, which saw him play for some mythic clubs in Cameroon like Leopard Sportif of Douala and Tonnerre Calara Club of Yaoundé. His brilliance during his club career was also felt in Europe as he played in France for Valenciennes, Monaco and Saint-Etienne amongst other top clubs before returning to Cameroon to once more put on the white and black stripes of Tekase, closing out his playing days at club level in Indonesia. As far as the international career of this great legend is concerned, his light radiated bright at the world stage with his famous dance at the 1990 World Cup, which he emerged as one of the top talents with 4 goals and propelled Cameroon to the quarterfinals. But the world had not seen the last of him as he became the oldest player to play at the World Cup in 1994 at 42 after he came out of retirement, to lead Cameroon once more to the soccer jamboree, creating another record by being the oldest World Cup goal scorer against Russia. A 28-year-old career which saw him win 2 AFCON trophies in 1984 and 1988, as well as league titles with Leopard twice and the African Cup Winners' Cup alongside titles in France. On an individual level, he was twice in 1976 and 1990 crowned African Footballer of the Year and named CAF Best African Player of the last 50 years in 2007, as well as World Soccer 100 Greatest Footballers of All Times. The 68-year-old has today created the Roger Milla Foundation after 77 caps for Cameroon with 43 goals and over 663 appearances for the numerous clubs he played for, tallying 405 goals.
And that was the package we put together for tonight's edition of the news. Thanks for being with us. Take another rendezvous with us tomorrow at 6. Happy National Day.